Go.
Hi George, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Thank you for coming to see us today, George. As you know, my name is Laura Doherty and I'm the Regional Manager for the Government Investigative Services team. You would have received an agenda by email regarding the things I want to cover in this meeting today.
Yeah, I received that email, but I don't understand why you pulled me into this meeting when there are other investigators out there that don't work half as hard as I do.
The purpose of the meeting, George, is to discuss your role as an investigator in this team, what is expected of you in your role, and ways we can support you to meet the obligations. This meeting is a chance for you to identify your strengths, areas which you can improve, and ways in which our organisation can help you support you better to do your job.
Okay.
You mentioned just before about working harder than other investigators. How do you feel about your workload at the moment?
Well, I have the Holden investigation, which I just finished, but I also have the Smiths, Jones and Singh investigations. The Jones investigation takes up most of my time. The police are heavily involved and I'm trying to get the investigation completed so that I can prepare the brief of evidence for the CDPP.
I understand the Jones investigation is very complicated, especially the police and media involvement. How do you think you're coping with that?
I got a lot of pressure from the director regarding the Jones investigation. I don't think he realises how labour intensive interviewing 50 people is. The new database is not working very well either, which means I need to enter all interview transcripts twice.
I'm hearing that there's challenges both in relation to the complexity of the investigation and also the new database.
Well, my wife has also just given birth to our second child, so I'm trying to manage doing interstate interviews whilst trying to support my wife.
I can imagine managing interstate travel with a new baby would be quite difficult.
Yes, it would be good to spend more time in Sydney so I could support my wife.
That is something that we'd like to look at as an outcome from this meeting. From what I'm hearing, you're facing a number of different challenges, both professionally and personally. Can you tell me a little bit more about the kind of challenges you faced this week?
Well, the Holden investigation report was already 1 week overdue, so I spent Monday and Tuesday finishing that before I was scheduled to fly to Cairns for the Jones investigation. I only just got back yesterday.
That sounds really challenging, meeting the deadlines and all the interstate travels. How did you manage?
I just wanted to get the Holden investigation finalised so I didn't have to worry about that anymore and could just focus on other things.
How do you think the Holden investigation report went?
I think it was okay. It wasn't my best work, but I collected enough information that I could within the time frame.
One of the reasons why we're meeting today is to discuss the Holden investigation and the investigation report that you submitted to me.
Okay, but I didn't see any problem with it.
Well, in the investigation plan that we approved in March 2018, it was agreed that interviewing Mr Holden's previous employer and the account officer at the Kangaroo Paw Primary School was critical to the investigation. There was no reference to these interviews in the investigation report that you submitted to me this week.
The accounts officer spent 2 months travelling Europe, so wasn't at school when I did my site visit. I meant to go back to see her, but just didn't get around to it.
Okay, did you interview Mr Holden's old employer?
No, I ran out of time.
I'm concerned that the failure to interview these two people may compromise any enforcement action that the department may want to take.
I don't see how this is my fault. You never give me enough time. John always gets double the amount of time that I do to complete an investigation.
George, every investigation plan is evaluated on its merits. It is the responsibility of the investigator to develop a realistic investigation plan and update the investigation plan if an extension of time is required.
I didn't know we could ask for additional time. I thought if I didn't get the investigation done in the time frame, I'd get into trouble.
You may recall in the investigations training conducted for the team in January 2018, we spoke about changes to investigation plans and how to complete these on the database and submit them for approval.
I don't recall that training. I think I may have been in the state when that occurred.
Well, we actually do have some new starters in October and we'll be running the training again. I think it would be beneficial for you to attend this.
As long as I can be taken off the Jones investigation for that day, I think it would be a good idea.
Okay, I can organise that. There were a number of other issues in relation to the Holden investigation report. For example, a copy of the relevant corporate credit card policy for the Queensland education employees was not attached to the investigation report.
Oh, I thought it was pretty obvious that a principal could not use his corporate credit card to buy alcohol on a Friday night at the local pub. So I didn't really see the need to spell it out in the policy.
I'm going to direct you back to the Australian Government Investigation Standard, which we are obliged to follow as a federal government agency. The standards require the seizure of relevant exhibits. If this policy is not seized an exhibit, any enforcement action we attempt to take against Mr. Holden may not be successful and may be open to challenge.
I just feel like everything I do in this place is wrong. You guys are just picking on me.
George, you're a valued member of the team. You have strengths in relation to your evaluation and risk assessing of matters. You have great teamwork skills and we respect your legal knowledge. The purposes of today's meeting is not to look at things necessarily just things you need to improve on. It's just to ensure that you have the support that you need to do the job and to be aware of these areas in which you can improve.
Well, as long as the management understand the amount of pressure I've been under.
You've really clearly stated in this meeting the pressure you're feeling in relation to your role. Once we've discussed all the issues, we're going to come up with a plan together on how to support you to improve your performance.
Okay.
In relation to the interview with Mr. Holden, I've listened to the recording and you didn't advise him of his rights.
I'm sure I would have.
Here's the transcript. You introduce yourself and launch straight into questioning.
Can't believe I forgot to do that. You know how many interviews I've done? I usually don't forget.
I understand that, George, but it can really jeopardise this investigation as Mr. Holden's lawyer can challenge the validity of the interview.
I really don't have any answers on how I could have not have done this.
I think that with all the pressure of the Jones investigation and having a new baby at home, you've been under significant pressure. I think it would be a good idea if Investigator Walker shadows you for the next 2 weeks to assist you in ensuring interviews are conducted appropriately.
I respect Investigator Walker, but I have so much more experience than him.
I know that, George, but I feel as a manager I need to support you through the next couple of weeks while you have such a high workload and you're managing a new addition to your family.
Okay, if you insist.
The final concern I have is in relation to the Holden report was the number of spelling and grammatical errors in the report.
Now I just feel like you're just picking on the smallest thing.
George, that's not my intention. However, it is my obligation to bring this to your attention so you can be supported to improve your performance.
Well, if I just had more time, I would have been fine.
I've heard throughout our conversation about you need to have more time to complete investigations and reduce your caseload when you have urgent investigations such as the Jones investigation to complete. Throughout this meeting, we're going to develop some ways to assist you in meeting your core competencies for your roles. You may recall at your original probation meeting you were provided with a copy of the core competencies for your role.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, it was, so I have another copy for you. I've taken the opportunity to review the core competencies for this role and have completed a checklist on what areas are your strength and what areas require improvement. As you can see from the copy here, I've marked the areas in which you're competent, including strengths in relation to assessing risks and hazards, developing and maintaining relationships, and teamwork. However, there's some areas that do require improvement, including your analytical investigative reasoning, your oral and written communication, and prioritising activities. What do you think of the areas I've marked that require improvement?
I never said I was perfect. I know there are some areas that I am better at than others.
In order to improve your performance in these areas, I think our conversation today has identified a number of ways in which we can support you to improve. We've identified training in relation to investigation plans. We've also talked about another investigator shadowing you for a couple of weeks.
I'm willing to agree to that, but you also need to make some changes. You need to reduce my caseload so that I'm not working back every single night. You also need to review the new database system so it's not creating more work for all of us.
Okay, so I propose that we develop a performance management plan which sets out the following. That you attend the investigators training in October, that Investigator Walker shadows you for the next 2 weeks to provide guidance on interviews. We reduce your caseload to 4 open cases until the Jones investigation is complete. That we review the database and some of the issues you're describing and provide some more training in its use. And that we reduce your number of interstate interviews to a maximum of 3 trips per month.
I think that's okay. I just want people to know that I am a good investigator, just overwhelmed at the moment.
For this reason, I think would also be a good idea that we check in every week and see how the management plan is working and if there are any other ways that we could support you in your role. It's crucial to our investigations that we're compliant with the Australian Government investigation standards, or our investigations may be open to challenge.
I know how important it is to get this right. I'm going to try harder to focus on writing reports appropriately.
Okay, so I'm going to draft a performance management plan and we're both going to sign it. I'm going to send you a calendar invite for a meeting every Friday for a quick 15-minute check and have a longer check-in on the last Friday of every month.
Okay.
Given the seriousness of the breaches of policy and the standards in relation to the investigations, I'm going to have to give you a first written warning in line with our organisational policy. This written warning will stay on your personnel file and may be referred to in other performance evaluation meetings. Do you understand?
I think it's unfair, but I guess I've missed some important parts of the investigation process.
Okay, so we've talked about some really difficult things today. I just want to check in and see how you're feeling now.
It never feels good to be told you did a bad job, but I hope some good can come from this and the organisation can reduce the amount of pressure I'm under.
I want to make sure you're being appropriately supported. What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, do some file notes, maybe leave at 3:30. I have some time in lieu owing.
Okay, if you need any additional support, all employees have access to the Employee Assistance Program, where you can ring and speak to a counsellor at any time. I'd encourage you to take advantage of this free and confidential service.
Thanks. Can you send me the details by email?
Of course, I'll send them through to you after this meeting. Thanks for your attendance today.
Thank you.
Thanks.